You can use the bandsaw to make freehand cuts, which means a curve or an S shape, something that doesn't travel straight along a guide. The table surface is the guide when you're using the bandsaw, so your material has to be flat against the table surface. And your fingers have to be outside of the red danger zone that's near the bandsaw blade. In order to do that, you can use push blocks to hold your piece, but if your piece is large enough that you can handle it outside of the red circle and keep your direction of movement away from the blade, then you can do it that way. You do need to adjust the blade guard. The height of the blade guard should be 1/4 inch above the material surface. That way you minimize the exposure you have to the spinning blade while the bandsaw is on. I'm going to start my cut here, turn on the saw with the black button, and in this case I've drawn a circle and I'm going to remove the bulk of the corner first, and then I'm going to cut some shorter relief cuts right up to the curved line. The relief cuts allow those small pieces of wood to fall away from the cut while you're following the curve, and that helps avoid bending the bandsaw blade or getting in so far into a cut that it's hard to back out again. If you get small pieces piling up behind the blade, you don't need to worry about it unless they get caught, maybe in the throat plate. If that's the case, you can use a push block to move them out of the way. Be sure to do it slowly and carefully, and never use your hands to do that. Always use something like a push block. Okay, now we can finish off that corner. Notice again, my hands are well to the side of the blade. You never want to align your hands with the blade, as the wood sort of jumps through when you finish the cut. I've turned off the saw, and now I'm using the brake to stop the blade from spinning before I walk away from the saw. Sometimes you have a small piece of stock to cut and you can't safely hold it by hand, so this is an example of holding it with a wooden clamp. You never want to use a metal clamp to hold small parts near the bandsaw, because the metal, if it contacted the blade, could be quite dangerous. But a wooden clamp you can use safely. I'm going to turn off the saw and press the brake to stop the blade completely before reaching in to remove those small parts. Here's an instance where my first cut on this short piece will position the left side just inside that red circle, requiring the use of a push block there. On the right, there's enough room to hold it by hand. I'm making a short relief cut here. Next, I'm going to make a long sweeping curve, which will require the changing of the orientation of the material to one where there's really not enough room to hold it by hand. So now I need to use 2 push blocks. You'll notice that even though I'm not holding it by hand, it's very easy to control the material with the push blocks and change its orientation. When I'm finished with this cut, I'm just going to draw it back very gently so as not to pull the bandsaw blade forward. If you have a small piece of stock that's an irregular shape, it might be hard to fit or hold securely inside of a wooden clamp, and the push blocks might not work very well either for changing its position while you're cutting. A real great solution to this is to use a piece of material like masonite with double-sided stick tape on it. You can fasten those small parts just to the end of your scrap backing material and then control it very easily from a distance. That way you can keep your fingers away from the danger zone.